Sander Venema is a highly experienced web developer and programmer for special clients such as WikiLeaks and Snowden. And he will talk to us about how he finds his way in the dilemmas of security.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Caroline. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about security dilemmas in publishing leaks and how to publish leaks securely and how to take care of certain things that are pertinent to websites. So, for instance, tracking and browser profiling, how to prevent that as much as possible. Can't I just like that? Okay. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the domain jurisdiction problems. Hang on, this is playing automatically. That shouldn't happen. I'm talking a little bit about domain jurisdiction problems. I'm going to talk a big chunk of my talk is going to be about tracking and profiling and browser fingerprinting and how to prevent that. And a little bit about basic web security like SQL injection and Tor hidden services, which are major to making sure that you can publish anonymously. So the problem with domain jurisdiction is that when you have a .com or a .org or a .net or any of those US specific web domains, is that the United States is claiming jurisdiction over those domains and they can seize them. So for instance, they can seize them so that your website is no longer reachable. And this happens to Mega Upload, for instance. And WikiLeaks as well has had some pressure on their .org domain. And the thing to prevent that is to find a domain registry from a country that is much more resistant to US pressure. So if you're up against the US, .ch, for instance, from Switzerland, would work really well. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about tracking and profiling, not this kind of tracking, but this kind of tracking. Facebook, Google+, those companies are all out there making a business out of tracking and profiling users. Facebook is doing it via the like button, for instance. They're found everywhere on the web. And what it does is it loads code from Facebook, from your website, so Facebook knows which websites your visitors visit because it's so incredibly frequent. Google Analytics, for instance, is even worse because that's found on even more websites, and it gives all sort of nice statistics about what browser use, versions, resolutions, operating system, fonts that you have installed, and this doesn't have to be sent automatically to Google. If you need this sort of stuff to improve upon your website, then pWik would be a good open source alternative that works really well. This is an example which I just pulled from Panopticlick, the EFF project, to check how unique your browser fingerprint is. And this is an example of all the stuff that that your browser is sending to websites. So this includes your user agents, your operating system, browser version, resolution, time zone, system fonts that you have installed, any plugins, JavaScript enabled, Java version and stuff, and even information about your file system, because the fonts are not in alphabetical order. There is some sort of file system walk that's going on, and that's revealing stuff about your file system. And here at the bottom right is an example of the Tor browser and what that looks like. And as you can see, there's a lot less information that's being passed to websites. So let's talk a little bit about basic web security. The SQL injection, this was mentioned again by Karen Spank this afternoon, about how in the Netherlands they did a penetration test on a hospital, and 1.2 million patient records could be altered, could be changed, and this is sadly an attack that is happening way too often. So an example of how this would work is that, let's say you have a login form, and you type in something like this with an apostrophe. If it gets sent directly to the database that's running behind your website, then an attacker is able to very easily modify whatever the database executes. So instead of checking for whether your username and password is valid, it can delete databases, it can add an extra administrative account and do all sorts of very nasty stuff. The cross-site scripting attack is a little bit like that, but it's an attack against the visitors. So you can inject code, JavaScript code, that is then presented to other users. So let's say that you have a comment form on your news site below an article. If it's not properly escaped, then an attacker would be able to insert JavaScript code onto that page, and every subsequent visitor that visits your page then executes, those browsers execute some extra code which may steal cookies, which may do all sorts of nefarious things on your visitors or web, do all sorts of nefarious things with your visitors' data. And again, they can access a lot via JavaScript. So the basic solution is extremely simple. And that is why it's so baffling that it's still so common. Don't trust user input. Escape everything. So if you want to check usernames and passwords, escape it and use parameterized queries so that the database is not able to fool the database into executing some extra query that is altering or selecting more data than you need. So let's talk a little bit about Tor and Tor hidden services more specifically. Yeah, okay, I'm almost done. So Tor hidden services enable you to publish anonymously on the Tor network. So you can run a server that's accessible via an onion link, and that never leaves the Tor network. So someone using the Tor browser is able to visit your website, get the information, find HTTPS connection, the 3 hops that Tor uses, obviously. And it is very hard to find out the location of the server and stuff like that. So that was basically my talk about how to, certain things that you can do about how to publish stuff securely and how to make sure that your visitors don't get compromised by you as a website publisher by having too many Facebook like buttons or Google Analytics that's running all sorts of trackers on your website, and you want to prevent that as much as possible. So that was my talk. Thank you very much.